Welcome to Perspective Shift Spotlight.
I love it. We are back for a new round.
Yeah, I said that right.
You said it right. So this spotlight, this is good. This is a great one. We just got an email from a Miss Katie Simpson, and so we're going to be covering Katie Simpson today. And this is a special spotlight because Katie reached out and she actually came up with a technique that she likes to use to what's the best way to say
like a modality.
Yeah, a modality, but a way to pass through the thinking mind, to kind of bypass through that thinking mind. So I thought this was a great one for us to share today because I'm going to start using this modality myself, Katie, and I'm going to give you some feedback about it, later on. Let me see how this works for myself, and I'll feed back to you.
There you go.
So this one came in, and you want me to just kind of start reading it?
Yeah, I guess you just glance through it, but yeah.
All right. So she goes, "Hey, guys. Firstly, I just wanted to say thank you all for what you do. Like so many others, I found your podcast while searching for Abraham Hicks on Spotify. That's another little synchronicity. Frank and I just recorded our second episode of a Abraham Hicks episode. So, Katie, we hope you enjoy that." But she goes, "I've been wanting to write for you guys for a while and let you know that four-leaf clovers do exist." And I thought this was great.
I just haven't found one.
I was going to say, Frank's always talking about the four-leaf clover. You know. Wait,
Yeah.
was your dad who was like, go look for a four-leaf clover?
Yeah, because I remember reading somewhere, because I remember as a kid we were told to go out and look for four-leaf clover. It's pretty much get the hell out of here,
Yeah.
Because it's like one in 10,000 or something like that to find one. So I know that they exist, but I could never find one. So
one of the funny things,
yeah, she's for like a bunch of them.
Well, what Katie says too is she said she found a five-leaf clover and she pressed it into a book. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I lived further north on this. Yeah, she lived in
I believe she's in Virginia now, Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia. Yeah, so she was further down. So maybe four-leaf clovers and five-leaf clovers. They don't make their way up to New York.
Well, Katie, I'm now looking for a six-leaf clover. I'll let you know when I find it.
There you go.
So she writes in. She goes, "Anyways, guys, what finally inspired me to write in today, though, was a new thought technique that I have derived that I would love to share with you and the listeners. So let's call this technique grab a bigger brush technique, okay?" And she says, "I like the name of that because it reminds me of the tell yourself a better lie technique." So she says, "Let me explain. Well, I've been working on a concept you guys discuss frequently on your show about envisioning the reality that you want and not getting stuck on the details, which is the how." And she says, "I have a tendency to get stuck and frustrated on the how, along with other thought patterns that keep me spiraling on details, both future and past." So, Katie, awesome way to kind of set this up for the listeners at home, because I think that's something every single one of us can relate to. We have this goal, we set this goal, this desire, and then we say, "I don't know how I'm going to get there," and that's where we lose that feeling. That's where we take a step back. We get distracted. We get upset. We say, "I can't think of this," or "In order for this to happen, I would have needed a whole different trajectory in my life, etc." So that's a very common thing. Is we always get wrapped up in the how. Like,
but the thing is, you don't ever need to know how to get there.
Never.
That's the fun of life.
Well, that's not our job. Yeah.
Well, if you knew how to get there, you'd be there.
Yeah.
So there'd be no expansion.
Mm-hmm. So she says, "Today I made a connection between this concept and some wisdom bestowed on me many years ago by a professor at art school. He was talking about using the right tool for the right job. His example was, you wouldn't use a marker to paint the sky. Basically, it's good practice to use a tool that is right for the job. So today, when I found myself getting stuck on irrelevant details in my mind, I realized that I was using a fine-tip marker to paint a giant picture 2 years in the future. It was an aha moment for me, because I decided then, whenever I get stuck on details, I will simply remind myself to grab a bigger brush."
Yeah.
This is so cool. Katie, this is awesome. "So far, this technique has worked out really well for me. At least once, a big brush wasn't enough. So I had to pick up a paint roller,
Yeah.
and I painted right over all of the running thoughts in my mind.
I use a sprayer.
Yeah, seriously. I need a full-on sprayer for my mind, too. But that's such a great analogy.
Yeah.
And she goes, you guys are welcome to share this email to your audience. I'm so grateful for you and the wonderful guests you guys have on the show. If I could give back one little thing, this would be it, and it would be lovely. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah.
You know, because we all get wrapped up in the running thoughts. You know, how's this going to work? You know, am I ready for this? Whatever it may be. And the only way to get through something like that is by letting go, some sort of distraction, etc. So to be able to use a technique like get a bigger brush, you know, or the bigger brush technique that Katie Simpson created, we can allow ourselves to let go of the how. It's simply, hey, I'm going to cover this up. So what's Katie doing? She's having a level of awareness. Hey, my thoughts, you know, that I'm attaching to are counterintuitive, not the thoughts that I need to get where I need to, or to get me where I want to go. So what can I do? I got to let go of them. How do I let go of them? I'm going to cover them up. I'm going to paint the brush, or excuse me, I'm going to paint over these thoughts.
You're going to go to a broader perspective. That's what. So a little fine-tooth brush is not broad compared to a roller.
Yeah.
So you go into a more broader perspective. When you do that, you can see everything. Because that's what, like, a lot of people misunderstand this, but the devil is in the details. So people are going searching the details to find the devil. I'm like, no, it's the devil that brings you to the details. It's not that the devil needs to be sorted out in the details. I'm like, you're going to find the devilish frustration in the details, because any scientist will tell you this. How deep can we go to find another moving part? Do we need to know that moving part? No, not necessarily. But if that's your joy, go do it.
Damn, Frank, that was just a huge aha moment for me. No, but like that was a great, like I never thought about that. You know, the devil in the detail, or the devil's in the details. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, some people. Yeah. So
you get caught up in the this
Yeah.
has to be perfect in order for this to get there, and that's our downfall.
Yeah.
That's the devil. That's bringing us down into this low vibration of I need to think and plan this out in some chronological linear fashion, and so it takes us out of that present moment. It takes away our power, because we don't have to know how something's going to work out. We need to take that next step that we can see in the direction we want to go.
yeah, we recognize when it is working out, though. So we're not oblivious to that. But there's too many moving parts to know the causation of anything. Although one could say the only causation is consciousness. Good luck explaining that to a greater detail, but not unless you can experience it. But there's so many moving parts to where we can find correlations. But if your job isn't a scientist or a researcher, it isn't your job to look for the details. The details will present themselves in the facet in which you need to know them. Yep. So, yeah.
Kinda
I
like-
walk around with a sprayer now. Thank you, Katie.
Seriously.
I'm ready to spray the hell out of the place.
You'll start to see these little synchronicities when you start using this technique too, because it's when you stop, you know, the how does this going to happen, or you know what needs to be done in order for this to happen, that like Frank just said, the opportunities present themselves to you, like breadcrumbs. You know, like you're on the right path. You'll be like, oh wow, like I never could have imagined that was going to happen to lead me here. Yeah. But that was the bridge to where you needed to go. And it was because you let go of the thinking mind, or you grabbed a bigger brush, you know, and you rolled over those thoughts. Because that's how I'm visualizing this technique that Katie created is, you know, taking these thoughts of how's this going to work? What am I going to do? What if this happens? And white rolling that whole wall going, well, I don't know. But I can tell you this, I'm confident that in my being, I'll figure it out. I have this knowing that I will get there. So I don't need to know, you know, the direction. I don't need to know the next steps. I'm just going to move forth.
Yeah, and that's why most people go through life, and life can be very laborious, because if you are trying to paint a wall with a fine-tooth brush, that is a long, laborious job. It's a task that will send you into the nut house, into the crazy house. So by picking up a bigger brush and doing one that's more suitable for the work, it becomes simplified. Yeah. And that's what, unless your focus in meditation is on the minutiae. There's nothing wrong with that, but most people want to get, because we're all energy, right? And the one quality energy has, that it always moves in the path of least resistance. So if you're trying to paint something broad, get a broader perspective, using a bigger brush, as Katie says, is more suitable. Using the fine-tooth brush would be, you would give up. You simply would give up.
And that's where most of us get stuck.
Yeah, because they're
we
trying to
simply give up.
I need to figure out how to get there. I'm like, it's not your job.
Yep. Another thing that Katie mentioned too that I thought was cool was she was talking about something. She's like, paint a giant picture 2 years in the future. That's what we're always doing, guys. We're always saying, all right, this is where I want to be. You know, whether that's professionally, emotionally, romantically, whatever, with your partner, however that works. We're always picturing something in the future, and so we're saying, well, I need to be here, or this needs to happen in order for me to get there. And that's where we start to lose it, is we're narrating and planning out, you know, A plus B plus C, you know, to get to the end goal.
What is the fundamental purpose of drawing the picture now? Is to generate the excitement now, not for 2 years. So when you do that, you actually you actually open up the roadmap to get to that place in what you call, linear speaking, 2 years. But if you're not excited about the picture now, the 2 years will continue adding 2 years, 2 years. It'll turn into 6 years, 8 years. The whole purpose of the picture, and that's your imagination, is to generate the experience of excitement now, not for 2 years. This is why people keep pushing out to 2 years. 2 years turns into 4, 2 years turns into 6. I'm like, well, what's the purpose of that? It's to generate the excitement now. And then almost when you get to that place, it doesn't matter if this exact thing shows up in 2 years or not. But guess what? It always does, is some form of affiliation to the picture in which you drew in your head in that moment, in your imagination, that generated the excitement. And next thing you know, when you get to that place, you finally witness, oh my God, I'm living this life I painted 2 years ago. Now you tell the story of how the first step you took into that future. That's why we paint the picture now, not to get there, but to have the roadmap of experience till we meet that road, till we meet that experience, I should say. Yeah. That's the beauty of it.
So 2 things I want to say about this. So Katie's technique here, the grab a bigger brush technique. And
by the way, if anyone's going to write a book about this, you have to get Katie's.
Yeah, seriously, you better contact Katie in Virginia about using the rights to this story. Yeah. But but this is a perfect mental representation of letting go, and that's what's so great about this modality that Katie created. Is I can feel it just when I was reading this email, I'm picturing it's okay, the mind starts racing, etc. But then you have this little voice that just says, grab a bigger brush, which just means, hey, I got to paint right over these thoughts of how's it going to work, how's it going to happen, etc., and allow it to be. And so what are we doing with this technique? We are letting go. Yep. There is no resistance.
Yeah, you're letting go of that smaller brush to grab a bigger brush.
Yep.
And it's constant. The brushes just keep getting bigger and easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is.
I just thought that was such a perfect mental representation. Yeah. So very well said, Katie. And now I want to kind of reverse engine. So I like to kind of look at things like, okay, why, do we have these thoughts of, how things work and, how to get from A to Z? We have to remember how we grew up and how we were taught. We all went to school, you were given a set of instructions. You followed A, B, C, and D, in order to accomplish whatever the task was. And so we've done this since we were 4, 5, 6 years old, when we were first starting school, all the way into, high school for some, college for others. But we're taught that there is a roadmap, exactly how something should be in order to get somewhere. And so we have conditioned ourselves to believe that if we don't know the next steps or the series of steps involved, that we can't get somewhere. And that is why we are in this mental toil that we are.
Toil, I like that word.
You know what I mean, though? It's we're constantly struggling and striving. And it's because our whole life we have always created a plan. Okay, first I'm going to do this, then after this is how I get that. That's what we've been taught is the only way to accomplish something is by setting that out. And I know this is a hard thing to let go of because we've done it for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. But it's in that unknown space, it's in that letting go that is when the real magic happens. So for me, at least, when I started to understand, okay, the reason I think I need to figure out how something's going to happen is because I have been taught my whole life, that there are directions, a series of ways to accomplish something. And if you don't do all those that certain way, you won't get to your end goal.
Yeah.
So that's something I like to kind of bring up too.
Yeah, one of the reasons we actually continue down that road, because we do get some validity of experience to it. But when you focus on the outside world, it's going to lie to you to a certain percentage. In other words, if I see somebody do something, or I see someone successful, all right, and they are truly successful, happy, they have money, whatever it is, they're healthy, and then I ask them, how did you get there? And then they lay out their map. And they're not lying to me. This is how they got there. So, okay, they got there by doing this. They went to this school, that school. They studied this many hours. They put this much time into the work and focused on this. I'm going to do the same thing. It ain't going to work that way for me. I might get some results of what they got, but not fully. The proper question is, what state were in when you reached this moment? Because I could put 6 billionaires up on stage, and they could sit there and debate the best way to become a billionaire. But the funny thing is, they're all billionaires. There is no better way. There might be a suitable way for me. So if there are 6 people up on stage talking about how to become rich, I might resonate with one of them. But even that resonance will get me going. But that is not, I cannot follow their roadmap.
So well said.
So school teaches us previous roadmaps to what they deem to be successful people. And they said, if you want to be successful like George Washington, you must not chop down a cherry tree.
And what did we do?
Did he actually chop a cherry tree down?
Who knows? But what did we do there? We bought in. We bought into the story, guys. That's the thing. We've been buying into stories our whole life.
But there's some, when we buy into a story and then we peel it apart and realize this story isn't good, it teaches us something. It teaches us, well, let's go to more broader perspective. Let's use the bigger paintbrush. Mm-hmm. Let me create my own story. Mm-hmm. Why am I following somebody else's story? But because I follow somebody else's story, I know how to formulate a story. Okay, that's good. I did learn something. I wasn't completely
off base.
It wasn't completely useless, my schooling. But now I just had to, like Mike said, reverse engineer it. Now let's flip it back again. I'm like, oh, yeah, we've been putting the cart in front of the horse. Now I put the horse in front of the cart. The two objects are similar. I mean, two objects is the same, but it's the direction in which I place them makes the world of a difference. And
I can promise you guys, if every day we went to school starting at 5 and we learned about, like, let's just take Abraham Hicks, because Katie was talking about finding us through that episode. And we were taught these techniques that, we don't need to know how, we set our goal, we move forward. It would be a whole different way that we, think, comprehend.
Can you imagine a teacher in kindergarten telling, like,
well, that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have this heavy level of conditioning that we're taught this is the only way. You've got to know exactly what you're going to do. You got to have a plan. If you don't, you're definitely going to fail. All this stuff that we have bought into our whole lives because we've been taught it. There's teachers that we respect out there that we love that changed our lives that we're, so passionate and there's something here. There must be something there. Again, those are all details, we were supposed to be on this journey. We were supposed to, stumble and learn the way we have. But at the end of the day, it's only what we buy into is what we experience.
Yeah, it's like I said this before. We are literally on a long episode of Punked.
Yeah.
And Ashton Kutcher any moment's going to come running out of the wall. Like,
got you all, guys.
Gotcha. And that's how I look at it. So I don't blame anything. I actually think it's fun. I like people coming at me or the world coming at me in a form of distraction. Because if I wasn't distracted, I wouldn't need the bigger paintbrush.
Yeah.
Or reach for that bigger brush. So I invite that in because that's what really creates the skill in which I came here to do. It's the focus. I came here. Yeah. Whatever I focus on, I get. And if it's something I don't want, damn, I get it.
How it works.
Yeah, it is. Can't get away from that.
Katie, this was an awesome spotlight.
Yep.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I am absolutely going to begin practicing the get a bigger brush technique, and I'm gonna give you some feedback how it worked for me. But I see what you're doing here, and it's brilliant, and it's a great little tool to just be able to really let go and trust. Hey, everything's working out the way it needs to in order to get me, to my goal.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Katie.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Perspective Shift Spotlight.
Yeah.
Choking on the title
There you
again.
go.
But we appreciate it, guys. We'll be back again next week. If you like what you're hearing and you want to write in and share something about, experience, a manifestation, a very, synchronistic moment, please write in, guys. We'd love to hear it. You can reach us on, all social media or email us directly like Katie did at perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com.
All right. Peace out.
Thanks, guys.